Air traffic control versus pilots.
On a medical emergency, captain is incapacitated. Request handling for runway 10 landing.
Coming up. Hey 7-4 crew, welcome back. If you don't know me, my name's Kelsey. I'm a 747 pilot. My channel, 7-4 Gear, is all about aviation. Now, this is kind of a sad story. We have a captain who actually ends up dying in flight. Let's get into it.
Syracuse American 550s out of 15,000 for 5,000. A medical emergency, captain is incapacitated. Request handling for runway 10 landing.
American 550, Syracuse approach, roger, altimeter is 3025. Runway 28 is also available if you'd like. The winds are currently 090 at tree.
We'll accept runway 28 for American 550s.
When you have time, fuel remaining and souls on board, please.
154 souls on board.
American 550, roger. Information Sierra is available at Syracuse. Visibility is 10 miles. And we're calling it 18,000 broken on the ceiling. Should be clear, beautiful morning.
American 550, and we might need to widen out just a little bit. We'll let you know.
American 550, roger. You can do it on your own, or I can vector you, whatever you'd like.
Keep in mind, the pilot is up there by himself, and it sounds like he's running the radios and flying the plane at the same time. Now, during cruise, that's normal. You have a pilot leave to go to the bathroom, you'll fly the plane and run the radios. However, during the landing phase of flight, there's a lot more things to do, and you're used to having someone that's doing certain roles and you're doing certain roles. So in this case, he's running both, and he's used to having a pilot up there, as all airline pilots are, and that's why he keeps saying things like "we," like he does right here.
American 550, and we might need to widen out just a little bit. We'll let you know.
This pilot is staying extremely calm and very professional and doing all the things that he's required to do. And that's why it's important to do your training and develop good habits. When he checks in, you heard him check with the controller and say they had a medical emergency on board. And that's something that you're supposed to do during your first check-in with a new controller. After that, you can say your normal call sign, but every time you check in with a new controller, if you have something like an emergency, it's important to check in with that. Even though they're past that information from the controller ahead of them, it's just good to eliminate any possible confusions. Listen when he checks in here.
On a medical emergency, captain is incapacitated. Request handling for runway 10 landing.
The next thing you'll notice is that the pilot asked for runway 10. One of the things that we have as an airline pilot is that we can hit a button inside of our plane and the plane will spit out everything that we need as far as what we need to land at that airport. The printout looks like this. It gives us everything like the direction of the wind, the speed of the wind, the temperature, all the things relevant for us to land at a given runway. When you're flying a small plane, you don't have anything typically that's going to print off like this. So you're up there by yourself in a small plane, you have to talk to or listen to air traffic control and also listen to the current weather that's going on at the airport there. Now, in some cases, I've heard people say, I'm going to go get the weather, I'll be right back. It means typically they only have one radio that they can use at a time and they can't do two radios. But that skill of listening to one frequency and talking and listening to another frequency at the same time will help you. But when you're an airline pilot, it makes it nice to just hit a couple buttons and get a printout. My assumption is that on the current weather report, it said that this was the active runway, runway 10, going this direction. But you heard the controller say that runway 28 was also available. He's suggesting to the pilot to go on to the other runway. Listen here.
Runway 28 is also available if you'd like. The winds are currently 090 at tree.
Now, as a pilot, sometimes you have to read between the lines of what air traffic control is actually telling you. They're giving you a suggestion of something that you can do, but at the end of the day, you're responsible. They're not going to say, hey, if I was you, I would really land on this other runway. They're not going to say that because that puts them liable in a way. However, he's saying, hey, this other runway is also available. That's reading between the lines. It's something, hey, you should be landing on this runway instead. It'll be better for you. Currently, the pilot is probably on this side of the airport. So for him to land on runway 28 will be faster. If not, he would have to fly all the way back past the airport in order to land on runway 10. It's the exact same runway, but just opposite directions. Besides giving the pilot a suggestion of what runway to land on, he also helps him out by giving him the current weather. Something that we have to have as a pilot before we land is we have to have the current weather on the field. There was a video I did a while back where the controller said, do you have the current weather? And the pilot was busy flying, he was dealing with an emergency, and basically the air traffic controller was saying, hey, here's another thing for you to do. However, this controller is doing the opposite. The controller is just letting him know, hey, hey, here's the current weather there. So now that's one less thing that the pilot has to do. Even though he already got that printout, the air traffic controller is doing everything he can to take off and unload tasks that this pilot will be responsible for. Listen when he says this.
American 550, Roger. Information Sierra is available at Syracuse. Visibility is 10 miles, and we're calling it 18,000 broken on the ceiling. Should be clear, beautiful morning.
By doing that and giving him the current weather there at the airport, it alleviates one more task for this pilot who's up there by himself flying. Let's see what's next.
American 550, contact tower 120.3.
20.3, American 550. 550, runway 28.
Expect a right turn off of Foxtrot or Charlie. The ambulance will meet you on the south side.
All right, are they going to have a way to get into the airplane quickly, or do we need to go to a gate?
They will have a way to get in the airplane quickly. We have a big de-ice pad there. I can give you progressive. Expect the right turn. It'll be a midfield Foxtrot.
Understood. As long as they have a way to get on the airplane quickly, we'll need them to get to the captain. Thank you.
Understood.
This pilot is doing a great job. He's not task saturated himself. He's got a big picture of everything that's going on, including what is important once they get on the ground. Obviously, he's up there. He's responsible for everybody on the plane, including the captain, who is unconscious at this time. And he's asking the controller, are you sure you're going to be able to get to the captain if we go to this de-ice pad here? Listen.
All right, are they going to have a way to get into the airplane quickly, or do we need to go to a gate?
He's questioning him because the de-ice pad is where pilots go for, obviously, to de-ice an aircraft. And what's typically over there is nothing. And there's nothing over there because what we use it for during wintertime is for trucks to go around and spray the de-ice fluid all over the planes. Any pilot that has been flying for a long time knows that if they go into a remote area, they have to get air stairs. These air stairs usually have a truck underneath them, and they're driven up to the plane so people can get on and off the plane. Any pilot who's been flying for a while knows that sometimes it could take 20 or 30 minutes for air stairs to get hooked up. People don't do it very often. I've been there and watched somebody pull up 5 or 6 times trying to get these stairs lined up with the plane. And he's also thinking about, hey, if that's the case and you guys are going to take the captain out on a stretcher, now you're on a flight of stairs. Versus being on a jet bridge, the pilot would be able to come right off on a stretcher and be wheeled more quickly and get emergency care. The controller's saying plan to go to the south de-ice pad. And if you're looking at this chart here, you might be thinking, where's that? Luckily, with these iPads, you have a more detailed map option that you can look at, like this one. And when you zoom in here, you can see the south de-ice pad is right here, next to the gates. So he's flying the plane, working the radios, and thinking about everything that's going to be responsible afterwards. That's what's called being ahead of your aircraft. And so what he's thinking is, okay, well, that's the south de-ice pad, and the gates are right next to it. So wouldn't another 10 or 15 seconds getting to a gate where people are used to being able to get on and get off quickly, medical personnel aren't going up and down steps, everything can move a lot faster, is what he's thinking, I'm guessing. But he's thinking this is going to make it more efficient. So he's being ahead of his aircraft, which is something that takes experience, but it makes you really good as a pilot when you're seeing everything that's coming next. And now air traffic control is looking and thinking the exact same thing. They're telling him to park here. Why not just take him here? Which is going to cause the controller to think, maybe that would be a better option to go to the gate. Watch what happens next.
Fort Command, do you guys have a way of getting into the cockpit expeditiously, or does the aircraft need to go to a gate? Roger, thank you for the update. American 550, you will be going to a gate, sir. It's going to be gate 6. I'll give you quick progressive as soon as you land.
Okay, we'll expect gate 6, American 550.
Now, had the pilot not questioned ATC about going to the south de-ice pad, and had he gotten overloaded with everything that was going on, it would have probably added time to the pilot getting off the aircraft. But by double checking twice, he asked him, are you sure? Because we need to get somebody up there. It caused the controller to go, maybe I should double check. And that's, even though it's missing some of the radio transmission on the other side, that's the controller asking the people on the ground, are you sure that we can get them up there quickly? And when he realizes that it's not going to happen very fast, he says, yeah, we're going to send you to the gates. And he says he's going to give him a progressive. Listen to this.
American 550, you will be going to a gate, sir. It's going to be gate 6. I'll give you quick progressive as soon as you land.
A progressive is something that you will get if you're new to an airport. You can ask the controllers for a progressive. You typically don't hear airline pilots doing it because there's 2 people, one person who's taxiing the plane and one person who's looking on the chart to figure out exactly what the best way to get there is. However, you can always, if you're lost, it's better to ask, hey, can I get a progressive? And what that is it's basically saying, air traffic control, you're going to be my GPS, and you're going to give me a turn-by-turn of where I need to go. Go left here, okay, next right, you're going to make a right. They'll give you those directions of how you need to go in order to get somewhere. You can do it. Airline pilots typically don't do it, but if you ask for it, they can give it to you if they're not really busy. So originally the controller wanted to go here in the south, the ice pad, but now they're going to park right next to it at gate 6, and it's open. I don't think there was any bad intentions from the controller here. I think he was simply thinking, hey, there's an open area so we can get them there quickly, parked, and get somebody on the plane. But when the pilot asked him 2 times, it made him question and think, is this really the best plan? The pilot was saying that twice to make him read between the lines. Earlier, I talked about how air traffic control suggesting something to you as a pilot is them suggesting to do something. And this is kind of the way the pilots will suggest something to air traffic control. Ask them 2 times, are you sure that's the best way? Is that really what we should be doing here? And that made the controller query and ask these guys that were on the ground, the medical personnel, hey, can we get this all done quickly, or would it be better to go to the gate? Now, there's obviously some missing audio there of what air traffic control was hearing on the other side, but he obviously learned it'd be better to get into the gate. Now, sadly, this pilot was younger. He was only 57, and he did pass away during this flight. But this pilot did everything he could to get him to the gate as quickly as possible, and I'm sure the captain would have been proud.
Delta 2953, runway 10 left, Delta, turn left heading 360, clear for takeoff.
Turn left turn to 360, that was?
Delta 2953, affirmative, turn left heading 360, clear for takeoff. Delta 2953, you are turning the wrong way. You need to be departing the other way.
Turning it around. I just verified clear for takeoff, Delta 2953.
Delta 2953, runway 10 left to Delta, turn left heading 360, clear for takeoff.
360 on the road, Delta 2953, sorry about that.
That is really terrible audio, and no, it doesn't typically sound as bad as it sounds there in our headsets when we're talking with air traffic control. Now, I have heard about this happening. For years, I had heard about people when they get into the simulator, when they're new, when they're doing training, they get overloaded, task saturated, essentially the opposite of the pilot earlier that was coming in to Syracuse. It's the opposite of that. And I've heard of a guy who, during a simulator session, lined up on the runway the wrong direction. Now, the simulator instructor thought, all right, let's see what happens if I clear them for takeoff. And so this pilot lined up the wrong way, facing a bunch of grass and bushes. There's no runway, and these simulators are very accurate. So he goes, okay, yeah, you're cleared for takeoff. And then just curious to see what he did, and he just added full power and drove into a bunch of bushes and crashed in the sim. They have from here going forward, which is plenty of takeoff distance. You can see here the total runway length is 13,000 feet. Now, I've flown in and out of Chicago for years. It is very common to get an intersection takeoff on that runway going both directions, and taking off from Delta Delta is very, very normal. What's not normal is facing this direction. Obviously, if they tried to take off this direction, it would have been a massive problem. Now, in all my years, I had heard about people doing that in the sim, but I'd never seen it done in real life. And it's funny is that just a few months ago, I saw someone actually do this exact thing in real life at a different airport, though. It was during, I think, November, December, something like that, and we were coming out of Newark, and we had this massive line of people. It was during a big push. A push is when all the planes are kind of going out at the same time. It's our rush hour. Anyways, during this big push, I was watching a guy from an airline come out onto the runway and face 100% the wrong direction, and I thought, no way! And then he just spun it all the way around, but it was nighttime, so air traffic control didn't see, but all the planes that were there were probably thinking the same thing that I was, because the distance that way was even a lot less than this. There was nothing there. It was right towards the very beginning of the runway. So I was thinking, what were you looking at? And I don't know if it was the captain or it was the first officer, but it was the direction. It would have been on the captain's side that there was no more runway there. So if it was the captain, that would really surprise me. Either way, air traffic control didn't see it, but I have seen it happen in real life where a plane lined up the wrong way and that they were able to spin around and take off no problem. The one thing that this pilot did that I really liked, though, was this part right here.
I just verified clear for takeoff, Delta 2953.
These pilots know they messed up. There's no doubt about it. They know everybody in line is watching them messed up. Everybody knows that it was a mess up. But instead of taking something that was bad and possibly making it significantly worse, this pilot chose to verify that they were clear for takeoff. Spinning and lining up on the runway the wrong direction, okay, that's bad, it's embarrassing, but you're not going to get in any trouble for that. Taking off without a runway clearance for takeoff, you're going to get in a lot of trouble for that. And if you add those two together, it's going to be very embarrassing. So by this pilot double checking with air traffic control that they are clear for takeoff before taking off, that was a very smart, very responsible decision for this pilot to make. And then you hear him say this here.
360 on the road, Delta 2953, sorry about that.
That's a pilot's way to let air traffic control know that they're actually moving going forward. And just like any child, if you get in trouble, the first thing you want to do is get out of there. If you enjoyed this video, you're going to love one of these two up here. I look forward to hearing from you. Until then, keep the blue side up.